going to join some spools of filament together using the SUNLU Filament Connector. I've already done about 10 spools. Putting the spool on my spooler here. That'll be the take-up spool. Feed spool that I'm emptying. Turn the power on so it heats up. And you're going to want to try to straighten out your filament as much as possible. Depending how long it's been sitting in the bag, it may be a little brittle. You want to cut an angle on the on one end. Cut a similar angle on the other end. Take your little PFTE connectors. You want to buy extra ones if you do a lot of printing and have a lot of leftovers. This is kind of a hit and miss process. No matter how many times you do it, sometimes it just doesn't work. You got to start over again. This thing does get hot, so watch your fingers. Now the idea is to get the PF tube there about halfway. Feed them in and try to match those angles. And once that's up to temperature, the important thing is get the tension off the spool by letting some out. Find that if you don't release the tension, it's very hard to hold the pieces together. Now it's up to temperature. You got to hold tension on these to push them together. Make sure the center is the two pieces are centered in the middle of the heater. Push it down, lock it. And continue to hold the pressure on them when you release, because it pops. The important thing is you don't want to flex it too much. You got to hold it up and try to hold it straight while it cools, keeping pressure on them, the two pieces pushing against one another. Wait about 10 seconds or so. That starts to harden, and what I do is I slide it into the cutter back here. This will cut the PTFE connector I push down on it. And hold it while it cools down a little bit more. That solidifies the joint, and at the same time it slices the PTFE connector. Pop that up. Looks like a pretty good connection. Well, that's pretty good. Now this should have a nice little slice in it. You got to peel it off. Can be a little bit of a pain to get off sometimes. Other times it just peels right off. And I know you're saying, don't cut towards your fingers. There you go. Very gently just straighten that out. Now I'm just going to spool that onto the other spool. And when you do this, you just want to make sure that you don't get it tangled, crossed over on itself, because that creates problems later. And there I have a decent amount of red that I can use for another project. A little bit hot. It's a little bit hot. Oh, look what happens. So. That's a fail. That's all right. Let me do this. I can just do another one. What happens when your filament's been sitting for a long time? It gets brittle, needs to be dried. But I don't really have the time to run each one of these through the dryer. So take my chances. Oops, turn it off. It's not the best. It'll work. Yeah. There we go. That's pretty good. Sometimes. So this device, of course, can do the different kinds of filaments. Let's see, that's supposed to, there we go. You can change to different types of filament. P-tag, PA, PCL, back to PLA. It'll adjust the temperature automatically for the appropriate to the appropriate temperature for the filament you're using. The heater, there's a center mark in there. It's where you want to line it up. You close that so that's tight. It'll beep when it's ready. And in here, there's a little slicer that's supposed to slice open the PTFE connector. And the filament will snap into place here and hold down, and you close the lid and push on that with that. It's a decent little tool. Works. Remains to be seen how well that those joints are going to pass through the printer. So I did 15 spools today of different colors that I recouped. Ended up with 4 spools of filament that I can now use for a single larger project versus those little bits that were left.